Blackhawks fall 4-3 in overtime to the Wild. Now, this game started off pretty poorly for the Blackhawks. The Wild really dominated the first period. The Blackhawks did get one goal from Louis Crevier. He had a monster slap shot off the rush, clocked in at 102.5 miles per hour. So that was the one Blackhawks goal in the opening frame. But the Wild got three and led 3-1 after 20 minutes. Now, the second period was better for Chicago. They, I think, technically did win the scoring chances battle in that period, but it wasn't like a ton of high danger chances for the Blackhawks. But they did get one more goal. Ryan Green hanging around the net. Crevier put it on net, and Green put a rebound in. Good work by Bedard, who was also in front, kind of spraying the puck loose. Got it over to Green, who buried the rebound. That was for Green's 9th goal of the season. Crevier scored his 5th in the first period. So after 40 minutes, it's a 3-2 game, and the trend kind of continued into the third period, where the Blackhawks, they started to kind of settle in and limit Wild chances as the game progressed, especially after the first period, but they weren't getting like a ton of great chances themselves. There was really not much chances for me to clip over on Twitter at Blackhawks Focus. Didn't have much for this game because there just weren't a ton of high quality chances. But as the third period progressed, the Blackhawks did start to push, put a couple quality shifts together, and then they got the game tying goal with 1 minute and 50 seconds left. Bedard off of rush, he got a spring pass from Levchinov, so Bedard goes in on the rush. It's kind of like a 2-on-0 break, quick break for the Blackhawks, and Bedard slides it over on his backhand to Nazar, who one touches it in, and that ties the game at 3 with under 2 minutes remaining, and it pushes things to overtime for the third time in these 3 matchups this season versus the Wild. These games have all gone to overtime, and they've all been won by the Wild. And that, was obviously that happened again tonight, where Matt Zuccarello potted home the overtime winner. After the Blackhawks got caught on a long shift, it was Levchinov, Green, and Bertuzzi on trying to match up versus first Kaprizov and Hughes, and then Faber came on, Zuccarello came on, and Zuccarello ended it. So it was a 4-3 final for the Wild in overtime. Blackhawks did pick up a point for better or for worse, but that equalizing goal by Nazar was pretty electric. We do have a fair amount of takeaways, so I'll let those dictate the conversation tonight. First one says, good effort tonight, too much spray and pray, especially early. Boys need to tighten up. Passing and plays will come with time. Crevier is a beast. Bedsy, Nazar, Green, solid effort. D held up for being so young. I want to talk about that point a little bit because Matt Grzelcyk was scratched for the first time this season in tonight's game. So it was an extremely young blue line with Del Mastro coming in and taking his spot. I think Vlasic might be the oldest member of the blue line tonight, and they held up pretty well. These box score numbers were pretty good. Kaiser was a +2, picked up a point in 23 minutes of ice time. Levchinov played 26.5 minutes, partially because he had that 2+ minute shift in overtime that kind of boosted that. But Levchinov picked up an assist on that late game tying goal. He had 2 shots, had a hit in this game. I thought he played pretty well. Crevier was fantastic. He had a multi-point game in 18.5 minutes of ice time. So I thought the decor held things together pretty well in this game, and I kind of want to see that be the decor for most of the rest of the season. I don't really see why Grzelcyk needs to be in the lineup. Never put Levchinov and Bertuzzi together in overtime. Again, they looked like they were waiting for the puck to levitate to the stick to move it out of the zone. Yeah, I don't love the matchup there with Levchinov and Bertuzzi going on with Kaprizov and Hughes. I mean, it was kind of towards the end of those two Kaprizov and Hughes' shifts, but those are 2 shifty, dynamic offensive players, and Levchinov has his moments defensively where he can be a little bit crazy, but I really, Bertuzzi does not match up versus a shifty player like one of those two. So I just didn't like how the second overtime rotation went. I don't think you need Bertuzzi out there in overtime. You have a Mikheyev who's fast, can play on both ends of the ice. I mean, Green I think is fine to put out there, but yeah, I definitely would not have Tavo out there. You have Nick Lardis who could probably play as well. Even Teravainen could push in the second half of the game, but just not enough top-end talent. Hopefully we come out of this abyss soon. Yeah, there will be some injections to the lineup very, very soon. I know I've been saying it for a little bit in these videos, but Sasha Boisvert should be potentially in the lineup for Thursday's game, if not by this weekend he'll be with the Blackhawks. He's already in Chicago, but he just needs to wait for a visa thing to clear up, and then he'll be able to practice and play with the team. So we'll see tomorrow if he is at Blackhawks practice and if he does project to play. Not that he's going to add a huge scoring punch to the Blackhawks lineup. That'll probably be Anton Frandell, who if he comes over, he scored the overtime winner for Djurgården in Sweden today. So Frandell's team took the first game of that best of 3 because he scored the overtime winner. So he potentially his debut may be pushed back in the NHL. We'll see what happens, but he would provide a huge offensive scoring punch. It's just kind of lacking now, I would agree. And now we do have Nick Lardis still buried on the 4th line, not really getting much play at all. And I don't like that. I'm kind of like with everybody now at this point where we really don't need Burakovsky first line minutes. I'm willing to give some guys a longer leash, especially since Burakovsky was great in the first half of the season, but this is like a multiple month stretch. He just has not put it together. Good game in parts for us. One step closer to McKenna or Stenberg. Yeah, now, like I said, for better or for worse, the Blackhawks did pick up a point in this game, but their lottery odds are still the same as they were. It's kind of tough to monitor. We're still a little bit too far out to where once we get to like the final 5 games of the season, then it's going to be really, I'm going to keep a real close eye on the bottom of the standings. But right now, the Blackhawks are still sitting with the 3rd best lottery odds right now. They're 2 points below the Rangers and the Blues, who have 64 points, where the Blackhawks have 62 points. All those teams have done that in 67 games. Where the first 10 minutes went, would have thought this would be a 7-0 slaughter. So getting a point, showing the fight sometimes in OTL feels a bit like a win. Definitely the Blackhawks, if there is positives to getting points, is that the Blackhawks are figuring out ways to at least tie games late. They could not do that really for a large part of really up until this past like week or so. They really have struggled last couple minutes where they need a goal. So the fact that they're finding ways to get one, that's a huge positive, even if it results in some getting a couple extra points. So that experience definitely is valuable, and tonight was, I'm sure, another good experience for the young guys, especially Frank Nazar getting on the board there late. Couple quick notes to wrap up this video. With the Blackhawks picking up a point in this one, they surpassed their point total from last season. They now have 62 points in 67 games. They had 61 points in 82 games last season. So there are still games remaining, 15 more games for the Blackhawks to improve on that point number. One more thing as well, with 2 assists in tonight's game, Connor Bedard now up to 64 points on the season. His career high was set last season, 67 points. So 3 points from tying that career high, 4 points from breaking it. You'll have to assume he's going to break it this season and set a new career high despite missing some games due to injuries. So those are a couple things to watch here down the stretch as well. Blackhawks are back at it versus the Wild on Thursday. Hopefully not another 4-3 overtime win for the Wild. We'll see what happens. I'll have the post-game recap up after that one.